Guys, I've told my horror story before with S Corp clients, and how do you know what reasonable comp is? My horror story is when they went after that CPA who was a friend of mine for $125,000, arguing that he knew and that he knew better and that he should have made sure his clients took reasonable comp. I'm a huge fan of RC reports. RC reports, it's about $1,400 a year. We're charging the S corps that come to us under audit $750 a piece. We'll probably make between $10,000 and $20,000 with RC reports. But if you have S corp or C corp clients, they have to each year get a report, and the report is as simple as possible. RC Reports has a huge database of businesses. It will give you a report that you can rely on. And so far, to date, when we produce that report, not a single auditor has challenged it. The critical thing right now is for your clients to get that report to support the number they're taking on the return, that you're taking on that return that you're signing. Best way to do it, RC Reports. Go check it out. Okay, you can find them. It's trn.rcreports.com. Again, trn.rcreports.com. Go there, you'll save $100. It will change your practice, create an annuity stream for you, and bulletproof your clients' corporate returns. The Tax Rep podcast is now proudly partnered with Nice Job, the experts in reputation marketing. Reviews are so important for attracting new clients. Before Nice Job, I would ask people to leave reviews, but they would usually forget, and I didn't have a way to stay on top and remember to follow up with them. That's where Nice Job comes in. Their smart follow-up campaign recognizes who hasn't left a review yet and automatically sends carefully timed reminders that can increase your chances of getting a review by 300%. I tried Nice Job for Tax Rep, and it's been a game changer. We added 33 five-star reviews in our first month, and our Google business profile is like a magnet for new customers. You can try Nice Job for free for 14 days and get 50% off your first 3 months by visiting nicejob.grsm.io/taxrep. nicejob.grsm.io/taxrep. I'm going to put a link in the description of the podcast. Try it. It will be a game changer for your business as well. How do I manage my tax rep practice? How do I get transcripts? How do I track what is going on with the IRS with every single one of my client cases? How do we complete the offer forms, the powers of attorney, everything? We use Tax Help software. Tax Help software is the cornerstone of our practice. We use it for its intelligent ordering. Every single night, it will update the transcripts on our clients, so we will see things happen long before those letters even go to the mail. We can then, react. We can let the client know. We can get all the transcripts we need to determine what our client's best options are, when is the debt going to expire, and we can fill in all of the IRS forms and get them filed accurately, the analysis done correctly. If you're interested in giving it a test, go to taxhelpsoftware.com, use promo code TAXREPTRIAL, all one word, all caps. You'll get a free 2-week trial. Again, that's taxhelpsoftware.com, TAXREPTRIAL, all caps, for a free 2-week trial. If you love it and want to buy it, use TAXREP10, capital, all caps, TAXREP10, TAXREP10, all caps, one word. You'll save 10% on your purchase. It will be the engine that runs your tax rep practice, just like it's what we use for ours. Hey everyone, thanks for joining us on this week's Tax Rep Network podcast. I'm Eric Green. I am joined by Arun Mehra, and Arun, this is going to be a fascinating topic because it's a topic we actually haven't discussed, which is offshoring. Sending the work overseas. India obviously comes to mind, you again, interesting background how you got into this. So if you don't mind,
Sure.
let us know, let everyone else know kind of your background and how you got to this.
Absolutely. Thanks, Eric. Thanks for the introduction, and thank you for having me on your podcast. Now, trained as a chartered accountant here in the UK, and a chartered accountant is equivalent to a CPA in the US market, I guess. So I trained with PwC here in London many, many years ago. And I went into investment banking. I realized that wasn't really for me. I married a dentist, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to start off an accountancy firm for dentists. And that was born. It was called Samera. And over the last 20 years, that firm has grown, and we serve dentists with all their compliance needs, accounts, payroll, tax returns, you name it, we do it. But we've gone slightly wider now, where we offer not just for dentists, we do it for doctors, vets, anyone in the healthcare profession. We grew. Alongside that, we built a commercial finance business, because increasingly in these sectors, a lot of people want to raise finance to buy equipment, buy another practice, buy another office, that type of thing. So that grew as well. But whilst doing all of this, we were starting to use offshore companies based in India, and they went pretty well. But over the years, we realized, you know what, we could probably do it better. We built our own team, we set up our own infrastructure, and because we understand the problems we had in our country and the problem those offshorers were having with us, we thought, you know, I'm sure we can resolve this and do it much better. So a few years ago, we set up our own entity in India, and we've built our own team. And that company is a full subsidiary of my UK company. And we have a team out there who are supporting all my dental, medical clients with all the accounting and offshoring. My clients in the UK are fully aware that we have a team in India. Quite often, some of my guys in India talk to the clients directly, okay, on a regular basis, because they want to get the job done, and the guys in India are very prompt and very swift and do it quickly. And now we're at a stage where we're helping other accountancy firms, certainly here in the UK, with their offshoring needs, because resource is the biggest issue that firms, certainly here in the UK, have, and I understand in America as well. We just, it's so difficult to find staff, okay? And if you want to deliver a quality service to people, ultimately you still need good people, okay?
Right.
So that's been a really good thing. And I think one last thing to add, Eric, is that what I've learned over the years is that a lot of accountants don't necessarily want to do the compliance work, but it's a good way in, okay? You're expected to do it. And I was like that. I trained at PwC, and I thought, when I started off my firm, I thought, you know, that's the last thing I want to do is all the compliance work. But that's your foot in the door. Now, if you can offshore that or outsource it to someone that you can control, you can trust, that then leaves the door wide open for you to sell other services, CFO services, or other value-added services, where you can probably have a greater margin, do more things that are more interesting, whilst you know the offshore, while the offshorers are doing all the compliance, which is what's needed as well by many clients. So that's kind of where we got to.
Yeah, no, it's really, so it's interesting. If you listen to the podcast, I know you do, we've been spending a lot of time on practice and rather than just like pure rap. And the reason is, I find a lot of accountants, you know, there's the famous series of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and he talks about how doctors, lawyers, accountants don't create a business, they create a job. And the way you become a business owner is when you're no longer central to getting the work done. So automation, offshore, things where you can get the work done, where as the CPA or attorney or whomever, you can now focus on your business, selling, getting more clients, efficiency, that kind of stuff. And so this does play a large role in it. I'm curious how your clients reacted the first time they began to realize you had people in India who, I know now you have your own folks, but at the time you were outsourcing it.
Correct. Yeah. Well, so good. That's a great question. Now I'm of Indian origin. Okay. And I was quite hesitant this is going back a few years. I was quite hesitant to let my UK clients know we've got a team in India. I always tried to make sure that we're UK based, but what I realized was that the service we were delivering was poor. Okay. We had to ultimately make that decision to say, well, I've got UK team members. We were using some offshoring people, but again, to really get the most out of it, those team members, whether they're sitting in the UK or whether they're sitting in India, need to interact directly with the clients. Okay. Because otherwise it all comes back to me again, and I'm sitting in the middle and like, I can't grow. Right. So it was a psychological shift I needed to make. Okay. But I made it. and it's suddenly taken a huge burden off my shoulders. It did, and what the clients are getting is a much better service because my guys in India are directly liaising with the clients. They're getting the work done. Obviously, it still gets reviewed by certain key team members in India and in the UK, but it's important that you've got to have that willingness to say you have to let go. And I think that's as you said with Rich Dad Poor Dad and all these ideas, which is a great book. You have to let go. You've got to have systems in place. You have processes in place which make sure that things don't fall through the gaps or problems or are minimized. But I think that's the only way you're going to only be able to scale your business. Otherwise, it's going to be focused on you and you're going to be running around in circles, which I was doing for many years. Okay.
Yeah, no, I talked about it in my book. I was a person out of control,
Yeah.
Which is sort of the symptom of success. When you get so busy that you're killing yourself. I don't know about the rules in the UK. For the folks in the US listening to this, there's actually a revenue procedure. It's 2013 something. I'd have to look it up. That requires disclosure to the client. And what I'm curious, so I don't know, does the UK have something similar where you need to disclose?
Yeah, we do. We have to disclose if we're sending data overseas on GDPR and all these rules that are in place. Okay, but again, it's a legal requirement. But as long as we do it in the right process and follow the data regulations, then we're okay. And I'm sure it's similar in the US.
Yeah, no, and I have to tell you, I've always felt, and maybe I'm wrong, the big firms do this, right? They all have campuses in India.
Yeah.
I always thought it was an easier sell, and I'm wondering if you found it easier for clients to swallow because it's your team. It's not a different third party. It's not someone unrelated. We have our folks who are sitting over there. That's, to me, okay, versus, wait, you've hired a third party, you're sending my social security number and my bank account to? No. You know, I thought it was easier for the firms because they, Ernst & Young, it's Ernst & Young people. Yeah, they're sitting in India. I mean, I know they bought some firm over there, but the point being is that it's the same firm. First of all, did you get any pushback when you first started with these other third parties? And is it much smoother when you can tell people, we have our folks who sit there?
I think, yeah, great question. I think we didn't get much pushback, to be honest with you. What clients ultimately want is delivery, okay? And it's on time, within a budget, and it's getting done, okay? And I think that's the overriding factor. Now, obviously, from our side, we have to make sure that we have systems and processes in place that data is secure, and that's kind of a given. That if we're not doing that, then this whole model will collapse, okay? And therefore, what we found is that other firms in the UK who want to work with us, they don't have the know-how or the knowledge or the experience of how to deal in India, but I've got a team there, how to set it up, dealing with lawyers and accountants in India and all that type of stuff, all the frameworks that need to be done there. But I think what my UK firm, ultimately, we're engaging with the end accountancy clients here in the UK, and it goes back to trust, it goes back to relationship, it goes back to making sure we're doing things correctly, okay? So in answer to your question, I think, of course, if it was just my clients and dealing directly with my team, fair enough. I think there's no doubt that there's an element of higher trust, but my job is to help other accountancy firms as well, because I know not everyone can set up a company in India. It's not easy. It's not to navigate UK law is hard enough, let alone Indian law. So it's a matter of having the teams in place to be able to support all of that. But again, it's doable. If someone wanted to set up their own operation for their own firm, say in the US, in India, we'd more than happy help them do it if they wanted to do that. But sometimes they think, it's too much of a headache to do that. I'm just going to use a third party firm such as ourselves to do it. And things like then we'll have a contract with that company, and they might be able to, the team member in India will probably use the US firm's email address, for instance, okay, that type of thing. So they come part of it. And there's a really important thing here just to highlight, to distinguish between outsourcing and offshoring, I think. And I think outsourcing is where people just kind of give a tax return to be done and it's returned for a certain budget within a time frame. The way we run is purely on an offshoring model, where effectively you say, Eric, you might say, I need a bookkeeper in India. And okay, we'll find someone who's good. they'll be on our payroll in India, but then we contract them out to you at a set rate, okay? And they're working on your client files. They might adopt your email address, all these types of things. So they become part of your team. And that's when you really start getting the synergies, when you have someone who's part of your team.
Right.
Yeah.
No, it's and look, I mean, I'm thinking for the US folks, I think it's Revenue Procedure 2013-14. Regardless, it's something you just build into your agreement. I would literally just simply add a paragraph saying, by signing below, you realize that we do work with an offshore team.
Sure.
To savings, we have ultimate quality control over it, blah, 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 blah.
Correct.
The client's going to scan through, sign, because again,
Correct.
if I get good service and I like the price, most folks, I think, aren't going to bat an eye.
Correct.
This is thinking I give them a separate agreement, because now they're going to focus on it. Now it starts raising, well, how do I know who these people are? I would build it right into the standard agreement.
I agree, and that's exactly what other clients do. And I think that that's exactly the way to do it. Otherwise, if you have a separate agreement, it just complicates the issues. But if you put it in your engagement terms as part of it, it's not a major deal. And I think, as you said, what people want is a good quality of service. And I'm the first one to stick my hand up. When we weren't offshoring, the quality of service we were offering just wasn't good enough. Okay, and because I could not find suitable resource or staff here in the UK market to do it at the price point that my clients wanted to pay at. Okay, so then it's just a business model that's going to fail. So you have to look differently. You have to think differently.
Right. No, I want to laugh because years ago, actually, Jeff and I started the firm, so it's about 10 years ago. I actually met with a client, and it just brings it back.
Yeah.
It's actually an old joke. I didn't create, but this client, now at the time, I'm probably, 10 years ago, I'm 43 at the time, looked at me and said, because his lawyer had retired, and his tax lawyer said, call Eric, call Jeff, whatever. So I meet with him, and he looked at me and said, well, what if you guys retire? First of all, it's a stupid thing to ask, but anyway, I remember saying to him, well, first of all, we're not going to retire because Jeff and I don't have nearly enough money to retire. And I said, we're not really the retiring type. I'm much more likely just to outsource the whole thing to South America. Yeah, the meetings wouldn't be as convenient or in English, but most of my clients don't listen to me anyway. So and he laughed, and he's still a client. But I remember thinking, I'd outsource it, thinking they wouldn't speak English. Well, in India, they speak pretty good English. So the truth is, they might be happier with the people I outsource to India. But to get back to this, you have trained people, educated, you can scale because they have a population. At least it seems that way. I know that a lot of people, I was first introduced to this in the programming area. Friends of mine that were Microsoft programmers, they went on their own, and they said, we have teams in India. We can bring in, they work for us. It's cheaper, it gets done faster, because if I need a big project, I don't have to hire 10 people. They have people they can just scale quickly.
Correct.
And so, I mean, not to get it too much into the weeds, is there a percentage roughly you found in cost savings in terms of the cost there versus hiring in the UK with all the benefits?
I agree. I think, honestly, after all costs and stuff, so I look at clients that come and join us, accounting firms, and they usually halve their costs. Okay, maybe sometimes a bit more, sometimes a bit less, but I think that'll be a rule of thumb. And it depends on the roles of people. But I think going back to your point about the volume of people, and I think this is where in Western society people have just waking up to this fact, is that we're an aging population in the West. Okay. And especially in the accounting sector. And the volume of people coming through at the junior level is just not as what it was, 20, 30 years ago. Whereas in India, you've got, I think, was it 65, 70% of the people are under 30, okay? You've got a very young population, English-speaking population, who are all very IT literate. They're perfectly trainable, and I think the key word is not trainable, they're hungry to develop, to do well, and to achieve something as well. And I think that's a massive thing as well. So you get some unbelievably good talent, and it's our job to find that right talent to join our organization. And that's what I found whilst doing this. And it's been a real eye opener to me. I didn't realize how much great talent there is until I really started doing it.
No, I mean, that is what I hear. And it's one of the insanities of the US in our immigration policy. We have students come to MIT, Harvard, Stanford, name it,
Yep.
from China, from India, and we force them to leave.
Yeah.
Why? Well, I don't. This makes no sense to me.
Sure.
But because my daughter just finished it, and my oldest daughter finished at NYU, has a friend from China, 4.0, wonderful, smart. If she doesn't find a job within a certain number of months, who will sponsor her, she's got to leave. Why? Why are we driving them out?
Yeah.
I don't get it.
It's similar, and it's similar here in the UK. It's exactly the same principle. They have a year or 2 year period where they can stay, and if they don't find a sponsor again, they're back they go. And some of them want to stay, some of them want to go back, though, I've found, especially for India, I've found, because increasingly the opportunities are over there. Okay, especially if they can bridge the UK India thing. They've got great skills. They've got contacts in the UK. It suddenly opens up many doors if they've educated here in the UK.
Yeah, I would imagine it's probably easier to start a business in India than the UK.
I wouldn't say it's easier. There's some challenges, but it's just in terms of the size of market and the possibilities and the growth. The growth is at 7%, per annum. Okay, there aren't many big economies growing at that rate at the moment. Yeah, 7%. It's huge. That's huge. Yeah. We're lucky to get any growth here in the UK. So 7%, and it's come every year. And it's looking like, I think they're saying by 2047, I think they want to be the number 3 economy in the world. I think so, which they probably will be by size, just by the vast volume of people.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, probably they'll be up with America, with the US and China.
Yeah, correct.
I think China will probably be number 1 at the rate they're going. So no, it's it's an interesting model. I think a lot of people in the US don't think about it. Yeah. For those folks who are listening to this, who are interested, how do they get in touch with you? I mean, because, if I have somebody sitting there going, you know what, Eric's been talking about, leveraging this stuff so I can focus. This sounds good. How do they get a hold of you?
Sure. So first thing is just to go to our website, sameraglobal.com. Okay, there's plenty of information.
I'll put a link in the description for everyone listening.
Sure. Thank you. So sameraglobal.com. There's plenty of information about who we are and what we do on there. We are starting to arrange visits to India, later this year. So if someone wanted to visit India, come and meet some of the team, just familiarize themselves, because we totally appreciate it's kind of out of the norm. It might be out of your comfort zone. People might see India as this mystical place in the East, but don't really know much about it. But if you can get there, understand it, come for a flight, you pay for your flight and we'll basically cover everything else for 4 or 5 days, and you'll just get a feeling of what's going on there. Okay. And then from that, if you wanted to test us out, you can test us out on a trial, maybe with some simple tasks like bookkeeping, and go from there. Then we can build on that. Okay. And it's important. The most important thing though to me is that we have to find the right fit from both sides. Okay. So this is a relationship business. So you have to be happy how we're handling your data, how we're handling any client information. And also then it goes both ways. So Samera Global, check us out. We'd be delighted to have a chat at least at the starting point, and we can see where we go from there.
No. And again, everyone, I'll put a link below. I will also find that revenue procedure, just so you can look at what's required if you do decide to go down this path. It is not a obstacle that can be overcome. I think it's pretty simple. And it's not an obstacle that can't be overcome. Just want to make sure you have the right language in your agreement with your clients, so they have signed off on the consent aspect with the IRS. But no, it is a way. And as much as automation is great, a human being still has to look at it, no matter what. And the other thing, and this I don't think people think about, and I'm curious your take on this. I don't know everything. it's possible that now when you have this team, it's not like you have Autobots. You have bright people on the other side who have ideas, who may find mistakes, who, I have someone who outsourced, not offshore, but in the US, and told me once he thinks their bookkeeper is a better accountant than he is. He's a CPA, but he's gotten kind of away from it.
Yeah.
And when they first sent clients, their first thing was cleaning up his own work.
Yeah.
They said it was a little embarrassing, but I actually have people now who are sharper accountants. Have you found the talent over there has been helpful in just beyond just getting work done?
Yeah, the talent's been phenomenal. Okay, and I have to admit, sometimes you choose someone and you realize they weren't the right person for the team, but that's life. But overwhelmingly, the talent's been great. And I think you mentioned automation and technology, and I think what we're trying to do now is train our team in some of the AI things, trying to train them up in the latest technology. Okay, so when you have, and I think the real future for, especially for small to medium sized firms, accounting firms, is a combination of offshoring with automation and technology. If you do that right, okay, get that package right together, that will then take away a lot of the day-to-day stresses of a firm, that which will then free you up to do perhaps some of the more added value things that perhaps many firm owners want to do. So I think the talent has been honestly mind-blowingly good.
Yeah, no, I deal a lot with, and what I'm very hype on, there's a firm here that does all kinds of encryption and everything and getting, and they've automated the organizer that goes out to individual clients called Lisio. They then take that, gather it up, can shoot a file over to something called Gruntworks, which actually does the input into the 1040. So it automates the whole process.
Yeah.
And I have many tax rep members that do this. It's really phenomenal. But every one of them will tell you, I still have to review it.
Correct.
A human being still has to lay eyes on it. And that's, so there's no reason you can't offshore and still use the technology, because now you're still saving money with the technology, but you have an educated person who knows what they're doing, reviewing it, whether they're here.
And you're absolutely right. And I think one thing to highlight is that, like, we're looking at hiring. We've hired guys who've got UK experience, UK tax return experience already, and they might have been doing it for a number of years already for other firms. You could look at people like PwC, Ernst & Young, as you mentioned. They're doing stuff for US clients already. So sometimes those people get fed up working with these large organizations. They're a small person in a massive organization, they get lost. Okay. So we can pick up some really good talent from those types of organizations where they kind of come in at a higher level, and they've got the experience of been doing it for even maybe up to 10 years already with these large organizations. So there's definitely, we put a request for CVs out for US guys, and one of my guys just spoke to me earlier today. He says, I've got 3 candidates already lined up who I'm going to interview tomorrow and see what we're going to do. So there's talent there who've got experience.
And for those of you who are like, all right, well, there's technology or there's offshoring. No. Both.
Correct.
You utilize both. So it's not one versus the other. It's the marriage, actually, I think, of the two that makes it very powerful.
Yeah, I agree.
No, very, very interesting. And so I will put a link below, everyone. You want to get a hold of Arun and talk to them and possibly partner, because now you already have an establishment overseas that has already vetted folks and are utilizing them, for their own clients. And so, no, listen, thank you for taking the time. It's fascinating, and it's something that, at least here in the US, I don't see a lot of people talking about. And however, everyone complains about finding staff.
Yeah.
And so it's one of those things that, well, have you considered, and by the way, it's not like we're breaking new ground here. Again, in the computer programming industry, this has been going on for over a decade.
A long time. Yeah. And I think it has been happening in the accounting sector for a little while, but not on a big scale. But I think now, with the whole resourcing challenges that so many firms have, I think it's going to become pretty normalized, I think, over the next 10 years.
Yeah. So this will eventually become mainstream. The world keeps getting smaller and smaller.
Correct.
So no, listen, thank you. And everyone, listen, thanks for, checking out this week's podcast. I'll put that link below. And everyone, listen, have a great day. Aaron, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Eric, and lovely talking to you. Cheers.